Welcome to Gain Mobility Online. Today our focus is to just get moving. So we work all over and we're looking to move with the breath on the most part. We also want to relax a little bit. So we're just going to start in child's pose. So kneeling on your mat, shift your hips back and onto your heels. Place your forehead on your mat and walk your hands forward. We take a few breaths. From here, bring your knees wide and your feet wide and hook your toes. Straighten the arms, make sure the wrists are under the shoulders, and then we pull up to our plank. Now we're going to do our elevated plank. So we lift the knees off the floor and we drag ourselves forwards from a plank position and then push back into a elevated child's pose. So keeping the knees off the floor, try to get your hips back as far as you can. So with your breath, exhale as you push back and inhale as you push forward. Try and come back to that perfect plank position so the body's in a nice straight line. We don't keep the hips up. We're going for 10 repetitions. And then drop the knees to the floor and come into your child's pose. Lift back up to all fours, hook the toes. This time we come into our downward dog, so drive your hips up as high as you can. Take the knees to the floor, the chest to the floor, and then push into your upward dog. And then we come back to the downward dog. Knees go to the floor, chest to the floor, push upward dog and downward dog. Now working with the breath, we want to inhale as you pull into your upward dog, exhale as you come into your downward dog, and then hold the breath for that moment you take the knees and chest to the floor. Inhale back into your upward dog. Now we move through these three movements 10 times. Try to maintain that breath. So we hold the exhale as we drop the knees, chest to the floor. Inhale as you lift the head. Exhale as you go into your downward dog. Inhale into upward dog. Exhale, downward dog. Again, 10 repetitions. Just moving nice and steady, don't rush it. On that upward dog, keep the shoulders away from the ears and lengthen all the way down the front of the body. When you've done your 10, lower the knees to the floor and child's pose. Take a few breaths. Now we're going to come into our frog pose. I recommend going side on your mat on this, just so your feet and your knees are on your mat. Bring your ankles and your knees as wide as you can. They want to be in line, so your ankles aren't in further than your knees, they are in line. Now we push back as far as we can and then leaning on the elbows, pull forward to almost straight legs, pushing the hips to the floor, then push back. We're just getting that forward and back movement, working into the hips as best we can. Forwards and back, forwards and back. Again, move with the breath. Inhale as you pull forward and exhale as you push back. So it's almost like the elevated child's pose, but we keep the knees on the floor and we're much wider, getting into the hips in a slightly different way. Go for 10 repetitions, and when you're done, come back to your child's pose. Lift back to all fours. And we're coming into our elevated child pose to plank. So lift to plank and then push back as far as you can with the hips, keeping the knees off the floor, and then pull forward into your plank. Just a reminder, you were looking to inhale as we pull forwards and straighten the legs, and exhale as you push back, bending the knees. 10 repetitions, and try to move with the breath so we don't rush through. Keep aiming to push your hips as far back as you can. After your 10, drop to child's pose and we take a breath. So from here we're coming back into our downward dog, upward dog and chest to the floor. So to begin with, pull into your plank, drop into your downward dog, exhale here, then hold a breath, knees and chest to the floor, then pull, inhale to your upward dog. Exhale to your downward dog, hold a breath, chest to the floor and upward dog for your inhale. Pull your chest up as high as you can for that upward dog, pulling the shoulders away from the ears. With your downward dog, drive your hips as high as you can. Keep straight legs and push your chest through towards your thighs. Try to keep breathing. It's not a huge problem if you go out of sync, but do keep breathing. It becomes instantly harder if you hold your breath. You're going for 10 cycles. And after the 10, you drop to child's pose. You take a few breaths here, relax into the floor. And for our final movement today, we're coming into that frog pose again. So the knees come nice and wide, ankles are wide as well. Don't let the ankles flare out so they're wider than the knees, nor tuck in so they're narrower. Try and go a little bit wider with the knees this time if you can. If you've got some way of knowing on your mat how wide you went the first time, it's always worth making a note. And then as you exhale, push the hips back as far as you can, then inhale and pull forwards. Work into the hips as much as you can, but don't go into a range of movement that's too painful. But do look to increase the stretch over our 10 repetitions here. Remember to breathe, inhale forward and exhale back. After your 10 repetitions, come back to your child's pose. This concludes our session of Gain Mobility on Live today. I hope you enjoyed it. Namaste.